All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're going to dive into this really powerful framework. It comes from Indian philosophy, and it offers a path, a way out of that constant chase for more. It's this trinity of practices, and they're designed to unlock a kind of inner strength you might not even know is there.
Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we're going to look at a problem that I think we all face, right? This endless race for happiness. Then we'll get into the foundation for a real solution. And from there, we'll explore these three core practices, japa, pranayama, and dhyana, and really see how they come together to unlock something pretty incredible.
All right, so let's just start with a question that, honestly, we've probably all asked ourselves at some point. Why does the search for happiness feel like it never ends? You know the drill. We get the job, we buy the thing, we hit that goal, and yet that feeling of satisfaction, it's just so fleeting, right? It leaves us right back where we started, just wanting more.
And that brings us right to our first big idea here, which really frames this whole conflict. The source actually calls it the endless race. And it's this constant struggle, between the external stuff we're all chasing for validation and the internal peace we actually need. I mean, think about it. This is the engine behind hustle culture, behind all that social media comparison.
And this is where the contrast just becomes, crystal clear. On one side, you've got material gains. The source basically argues they give you this temporary hit of pleasure, right? But it just fuels more desire, trapping you in this cycle of always wanting the next thing. But on the other side, you have spiritual growth. And that's aiming for something totally different, lasting contentment, and this is the cool part, awakening our real inner potential.
So if that endless race is the problem, how do we even start to build a solution? Well, the text is really clear about this. Before we can build anything that's going to last, we have to prepare the ground first. We have to build a foundation. And you know what that foundation is? It's our own mind and body.
And this, right here, is the crucial first step. The source really emphasizes this point. Real growth is basically impossible if our minds are just constantly agitated. Think about it. If you're always driven by anxiety, by impatience, you just can't tap into your deeper strengths. So, a calm, clear mind, that's not a luxury. It's the absolute, mandatory starting point.
Now, the source uses this really powerful metaphor for this whole process of self-refinement. It's like a two-part process that's happening at the same time. First, you have melting. This is all about actively purifying those negative habits and traits that are holding you back. But then, at the very same time, you have molding, and that's where you're consciously shaping the positive qualities you actually want to embody.
Okay, so once that foundation is prepared, we can finally look at the first pillar of this trinity, a practice called japa. Let's check out how this simple act of repetition can start to completely transform our focus.
So, what exactly is japa? Well, at its core, it's the practice of repeatedly chanting a mantra. And you can really think of it like a mental anchor. You've got this sea of distracting thoughts, right? The repetition gives your mind one single point to hold on to, and that's how it trains it to stay focused instead of just wandering off.
But here's a really critical point the text makes. It's not about just mechanically repeating the words over and over. The real power, it says, comes from the faith, the conviction behind them. And there's this amazing story from the source that illustrates this just perfectly.
So the story goes like this. There was a disciple who became famous for healing people with this special medicine. So when his own guru gets sick, the disciple heals him too, and the guru is just amazed, right? He asks, "What is the secret ingredient?" And the disciple reveals the truth. It was just water. Water he had used to wash the guru's feet. The only thing that made it special was his own unshakable faith in his teacher.
And this is where we get the crucial twist. The guru, totally driven by his ego and wanting that power for himself, he tries to replicate the miracle. He uses water from his own feet, but it doesn't work. And this just drives home the core lesson. The power was never in the object, it wasn't in the water. It was in the selfless faith of the disciple. That was the real catalyst.
Okay, so japa helps us focus the mind. What's next? Well, the next step is to energize the body. And this involves learning how to channel our vital life force, which is known as prana.
The practice for this is called pranayama. And according to the source, this is way more than just a breathing exercise. It's a conscious technique for drawing this vital energy from the atmosphere all around us and using it to build inner strength, courage, and real self-confidence.
And the source offers a really simple but powerful practice to get started. So, step 1. As you inhale, you actually visualize drawing in pure vital energy. Step 2.
You hold that breath for about half the time you spent inhaling and just let that energy settle inside you. And then, step 3. As you exhale, you visualize releasing all the negativity, all the impurities. Simple, right?
All right, so think about where we are. We have a mind that's being trained by japa and a body that's energized by pranayama. Now, we can combine them. We can bring them together for the peak practice of this whole trinity, dhyana, which, we usually just call meditation.
The source uses this fantastic analogy. It describes the untrained mind as being incredibly restless, jumping like a monkey and flitting like a bird. And that's where the other practices come in. Japa, that focused repetition, and pranayama, that conscious breathing. Those are the tools we use to gently train the mind, to teach it to stay still so that it can finally be directed toward one single, powerful point of focus.
Because here's the thing. Once the mind really learns how to concentrate, it becomes this incredibly powerful tool. The source literally says that this kind of focused awareness is the master key to success in any field. It doesn't matter if you're aiming for material achievement or deep spiritual insight.
Now, the text outlines 2 ways you can approach this. For beginners, it's often a lot easier to focus on something with a physical form, like an image or a statue. But the more advanced practice is what's called formless meditation. And that's where your focus is on a more abstract concept, like the feeling of peace or the qualities you might associate with the rising sun.
Okay, so we've got japa, we've got pranayama, and we've got dhyana. So what happens when you bring all 3 of these together? What is the ultimate power that this entire trinity is designed to unlock?
And the source is really clear on this. The goal isn't just to learn 3 separate skills. The culmination of all of this, of japa, pranayama, and dhyana, is the development of one single unified quality, atmabal, or what we'd call soul force. It's the integrated, truly unshakable strength of your entire being.
And this inner power, this soul force, is described as the true foundation for any lasting success. It's said to act almost like a magnetic force, attracting favorable people and circumstances and giving you this deep, deep resilience you need to overcome pretty much any obstacle life decides to throw your way. Ultimately, the real message here is that the greatest power available to any of us is our own consciousness. That's the force that builds our world, creates our opportunities, and literally defines our reality. And this trinity of practices, it's presented as a direct path to mastering that force.
So this framework, it really provides a clear and actionable path to cultivating that inner power. Which means the final question it leaves us with is a really profound one. Once you have access to this incredible force, where are you going to choose to focus it?